Hey, have you ever stared at your garage door on a windy, rainy morning and thought, I should have something that actually keeps that mess out? I'm talking about those moments when you're about to pull the car out, only to find the floor soaked, the tools you left outside rusted, and a whole lot of extra cleanup waiting for you. I've been in that spot enough times to know how frustrating it can get, especially when you're trying to protect a vehicle you just spent a good chunk of money on. The good news is there are covers that promise to keep the elements at bay, but the real question is whether they actually live up to that promise without turning your garage into a storage nightmare. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So, let's talk about the ShelterLogic ShelterCoat 13 by 24 by 1 foot gray wind and snow rated garage round. At first glance, it sounds like a no-brainer: a steel frame, a UV-treated polyethylene cover, and a claim of handling 90 miles per hour winds and snow loads. Those numbers can feel reassuring, but the usefulness of a garage cover really comes down to how it fits into everyday life, how easy it is to set up, and whether the trade-offs make sense for your specific situation. Who should consider this cover? If you own a small to medium-sized garage, think a one-car space or a detached workshop, and you frequently deal with harsh weather conditions, this could be a solid safeguard. It's especially handy for folks who store a recreational vehicle, a boat, or a motorcycle that sits out under an open sky. The patented ShelterLock stabilizers at each rib connection add a level of rigidity that helps prevent the cover from flapping or tearing when gusts pick up. For anyone living in a region where wind speeds routinely breach 60 miles per hour, that extra reinforcement can be the difference between a cover that stands its ground and one that's ripped to shreds. On the flip side, if your garage is already fully enclosed, or if you have a very large space that requires a custom-sized cover, this model might not be the best fit. The dimensions 13 feet wide, 24 feet deep, and a foot high are generous for a typical one-car garage, but the height can be limiting if you have taller vehicles or want to keep a workbench and storage cabinets under the cover. Also, if you're looking for a low-maintenance solution that you can toss on and forget, the ratchet-tight tension system does require a bit of initial tightening and periodic checking, especially after severe weather events. Let's walk through a typical day with this cover in place. Imagine you've just finished a weekend project and you're ready to drive your car out. You pull the cover up using the easy slide cross rails. The movement is smooth thanks to the design that keeps the fabric aligned and prevents it from bunching. The steel frame, built from heavy-duty 15/8" ch diameter tubing, feels sturdy, and the powder coat finish gives you confidence that corrosion isn't going to set in after a few seasons of rain. You lock the stabilizers at each rib, nothing more complicated than a simple click, and the whole thing sits tight, resisting the wind that the local forecast says will reach 80 miles per hour that afternoon. Now comes the real test: snow. If you've ever tried to shovel a garage cover, you know it can be a hassle. The ShelterCoat's Ripstop polyethylene fabric is UV-treated inside, so it won't become brittle after repeated sun exposure, and it's designed to shed water rather than soak it. In practice, a moderate snowfall, about 68 inches, sits on the cover and slides off rather than clumping into heavy ice. That means you don't have to spend extra time pulling the cover off the vehicle after a storm. You simply pull it down and let nature do the work. For lighter snow loads, this is a practical win. However, if you live in an area with heavy, wet snow that builds up quickly, the cover might sag under the weight, and you'd need to retighten the tension system more often. Another practical point is the ease of storage. When you're not using it, say during the dry summer months, the ShelterCoat can be disassembled fairly quickly. The bolt-together hardware at every connection point is intuitive. You just loosen the bolts, fold the fabric, and stack the frame. The whole set takes up less space than a small motorcycle, which is a nice bonus if you have limited storage. Now, let's address a common hesitation: durability versus cost. The heavy-duty steel frame and powder coating are higher-end components compared to cheaper, all-plastic frames you might find on discount sites. That means the upfront price can be a bit more noticeable, but the trade-off is a longer lifespan. In my research, I saw that many budget-friendly covers start to rust or lose tension within a year or two, especially when left exposed to moisture. With this ShelterCoat, the corrosion-resistant finish and reinforced rib connections suggest you'll be looking at a product that persists through seasons without the need for replacement. One weakness that shows.